The temporal archives of New Shanghai gleamed like a silver needle piercing the night sky, its quantum-reinforced walls housing humanity's most precious technological achievements. Raven Blackwood stood at her post in the high-security wing, her dark eyes reflecting the soft blue glow of the containment fields. 10 years of protecting the world's most dangerous artifacts had taught her to trust her instincts, and tonight, they were screaming. The resonance crystal floated in its containment field, pulsing with an inner light that seemed to whisper secrets from another world. It had appeared 3 months ago in a meteor crater in the Gobi Desert, and already 2 nations and 3 private military companies had tried to steal it. None had succeeded. None had faced Raven. Security breach in Sector 7, the AI announced calmly. Raven's hand moved to her pulse pistol as she accessed the security feed through her neural implant. The intruder moved like liquid shadow, bypassing security measures that had taken years to perfect. Lockdown Protocol Epsilon, Raven commanded, her voice steady. The archive's defensive systems hummed to life, but the intruder was already too close. Raven drew her weapon and waited in the darkness. The figure that emerged from the shadows wasn't what she expected. Tall, graceful, with silver-white hair that seemed to capture and reflect the starlight itself. Her skin had a faint opalescent sheen, and her eyes, 3 of them, glowed with an inner fire that marked her as something far beyond human. "I am Lady Astria Valeth," the alien announced, her voice carrying both authority and a strange melody. "That crystal belongs to my family, and I have come to reclaim it." Raven kept her weapon trained on the visitor's center eye. "The artifact is under Earth Federation protection. I don't care if you're the queen of the Andromeda Galaxy, you're not taking it." Astria's lips curved into what might have been a smile. "You're either very brave or very foolish to stand against a Valeth noble. Do you know what that crystal is capable of?" "I know it's powerful enough that 6 different organizations wanted badly enough to kill for it," Raven replied. "Which is exactly why it's staying right where it is." "It's not a weapon," Astria said, taking a step forward. Raven's finger tightened on the trigger, but something in the alien's voice made her hesitate. "It's a key. A key to something that could either save or destroy both our worlds." The crystal's pulsing grew stronger, its light synchronizing with Astria's heartbeat. Raven felt it too, a pull, a resonance that seemed to connect the 3 of them across space and time. "There are forces moving in the darkness between stars," Astria continued, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Ancient powers awakening. The crystal was hidden on Earth for a reason, but now it must return home before it's too late." "Why should I believe you?" Raven demanded, even as part of her already did. There was truth in Astria's voice, in the way the crystal sang in her presence. "Because I'm trusting you with the truth," Astria replied. "I could have tried to take it by force. Instead, I'm asking for your help. The fate of 2 worlds may depend on your choice." Raven studied the alien noble, her training warring with instinct. In 10 years, she'd never failed in her duty. Never questioned her orders. But she'd also never faced someone like Astria Valeth, never felt the kind of connection that now hummed between them like a living thing. The security alarms suddenly screamed to life. "Multiple breaches detected," the AI announced. "Hostile forces approaching from all vectors." Astria's expression hardened. "We're out of time. They've followed me here. If they get the crystal before we can return it to the Valeth Sanctuary, everything is lost." Raven made her decision in a heartbeat. "How many?" "At least 3 strike teams. Professional hunters. The kind that shoot first and never bother with questions," Raven said grimly. She activated her neural link to the archive's defense systems. "I hope you're as good at fighting as you are at breaking and entering, Your Highness. Because this is about to get interesting." The lights went out, plunging the archive into darkness. But in the glow of the crystal, Raven saw Astria smile, a fierce, wild expression that sent a shiver down her spine. My dear guardian, Astria said, drawing a weapon that seemed made of starlight itself, you have no idea how interesting things are about to become. The maintenance tunnels beneath the temporal archives echoed with the sound of pursuit. Raven led the way through the labyrinth of passages, the resonance crystal secured in a quantum-shielded case at her hip. Behind her, Lady Astria moved with inhuman grace, her silver hair glowing faintly in the emergency lights. 3 teams converging, Astria warned, her third eye gleaming as it tracked their hunters through walls. The ShadowCorp mercenaries are using phase shift technology. Of course they are, Raven muttered, activating her neural link to access the archive's subsystems. Because this night wasn't complicated enough already. Her fingers danced across a hidden panel, and a section of wall slid aside. This way. But you're going to tell me exactly what we're dealing with. They emerged into an abandoned maglev station, its platforms thick with dust. As Raven secured their position, Astria placed her hand on the crystal case. It hummed in response, sending ripples of blue light through her opalescent skin. The crystal is part of the Valeth Crown of Harmony, Astria explained, her voice tight with urgency. For millennia, it helped maintain peace between the great houses of my people. But it was stolen during the Starfall Rebellion, when those who feared our connection to the ancient powers tried to destroy everything we'd built. And now everyone wants it, Raven said, checking her weapon's charge. The crystal, the crown, they're more than just symbols of power, aren't they? Much more. The crown is a key to the resonance network, a web of quantum-entangled nodes scattered across the galaxy. In the wrong hands, it could be used to collapse spacetime itself. Astria's 3 eyes fixed on Raven. That's why my mother hid this piece on Earth. She knew your people would guard it fiercely, even if you didn't understand its true nature. The station trembled as explosion rippled through the upper levels. Raven's neural implant flashed with warnings, the archive's defenses were failing. Your mother was right about us being fierce, Raven said, allowing herself a grim smile. But I'm starting to think she underestimated how many people would be willing to tear the world apart to get their hands on this thing. A shadow moved at the edge of the platform. Raven spun, her pulse pistol already firing. The phase-shifted mercenary flickered into visibility as they fell, their stealth system overloading. We need to move, Astria said, drawing her starlight weapon. The hunters are using neural scramblers. If they catch us. They won't, Raven cut her off, grabbing Astria's arm. The contact sent a jolt through both of them, like touching a live wire. For a moment, Raven could feel everything, Astria's determination, her fear, the weight of centuries of responsibility bearing down on her shoulders. They ran through maintenance corridors and abandoned storage rooms, the sounds of battle growing closer. Raven's mind raced, evaluating and discarding escape routes. The archive had been her home for a decade, but now every shadow held potential betrayal. There's something you're not telling me, Raven said as they paused to catch their breath in an old security station. These hunters, they're too well equipped, too coordinated. They knew exactly when and where to strike. Astria's expression darkened. Because they were waiting for me. The ShadowCorp mercenaries work for my cousin, Lord Theron. He believes uniting the crown will give him the power to remake our society, to purge what he calls the weakness of diplomacy and cooperation with other species. Especially humans, Raven guessed, and Astria nodded. The irony is, humans are far more like us than either of our peoples realize. Your capacity for adaptation, for finding strength in diversity, it's why my mother chose Earth as the crystal's sanctuary. A blast door at the far end of the corridor began to glow red, metal softening as cutting beams worked their way through. They were running out of time. The archive has one last defense, Raven said, her hand moving to the crystal case. A quantum tunneling system designed to transport high-risk artifacts to a secure facility in the Himalayas. But it was never meant to transport living beings. Astria's eyes widened. The resonance patterns, the crystal might be able to stabilize the quantum field, but the energy requirements would be enormous. And if we're wrong, we'll end up scattered across 11 dimensions. Raven met Astria's gaze. Still trust me? The blast door exploded inward. Through the smoke, armored figures advanced, weapons raised. But Astria wasn't looking at them. Her eyes, all three of them, were fixed on Raven. With my life, she said softly, and placed her hand over Raven's on the crystal case. The world dissolved into light. Consciousness returned in waves of blue fire. Raven opened her eyes to find herself lying on cold stone, the taste of ozone sharp on her tongue. Above her, massive peaks pierced clouds touched by dawn's first light. The Himalayas. They'd made it. Remarkable, Astria's voice came from nearby. Your technology, combined with the crystal's resonance. I've never seen anything like it. Raven sat up slowly, her neural implant buzzing with static. The quantum tunnel had scrambled its more delicate functions, but the basic systems were intact. Astria knelt beside her, the crystal case clutched protectively against her chest. In the mountain's pure light, she looked both more and less human, her alien beauty somehow both sharper and more ethereal. The sanctuary facility should be 2 kilometers north, Raven said, climbing to her feet. Assuming we landed where I think we did. She checked her pulse pistol, dead, its power cells drained by the quantum jump. We're being followed. Astria's third eye pulsed with a soft violet light. The quantum tunnel left a trace. Lord Theron's hunters will find it. Then we better move fast. Raven started walking, trying to ignore how her entire body ached. Tell me more about your cousin. The kind of person willing to start a war between worlds usually has an interesting story. Astria fell into step beside her, her movements graceful despite the treacherous terrain. Theron believes in the old stories, that the Valeth were meant to rule, not share the galaxy. The crown of harmony was created to prevent exactly the kind of dominion he dreams of. By your ancestors? By yours and mine together. Astria's words stopped Raven in her tracks. The truth has been hidden for centuries, but humans and Valeth once worked as one. The crown was our joint creation, meant to ensure neither species could dominate the other. A bitter wind howled between the peaks, carrying the first flakes of snow. Raven processed this revelation, connecting pieces of a puzzle she hadn't known she was solving. That's why the crystal responded to both of us in the archive, she said slowly. Why we could stabilize the quantum tunnel together. Yes. Astria stepped closer, her presence radiating warmth in the mountain cold. And it's why Theron will never stop hunting us. The very existence of this connection threatens everything he believes about Valeth supremacy. The snow was falling harder now, reducing visibility to a few meters. Raven's neural implant warned of dropping temperatures, but another sensation overrode its alerts, a building pressure in her mind, like static before a storm. Something's wrong, she muttered, pressing her hand to her temple. The crystal. It's resonating with the sanctuary's defenses, Astria said urgently. Raven, your implant, you need to shut it down now. Too late. Information flooded Raven's neural network, not the sanitized data she was used to, but raw, ancient knowledge burning through her synapses like liquid fire. She saw cities of crystal and light, watched as humans and Valeth worked together to weave the fabric of space-time itself, felt the moment it all shattered in fear and betrayal. She fell to her knees in the snow, dimly aware of Astria's arms around her, holding her steady as the visions raked through her mind. I'm sorry, Astria whispered. I should have warned you. The crystal contains more than just power, it holds memories, the true history of both our peoples. Why, Raven gasped through the pain, why show me this? Because you needed to understand. The sanctuary isn't just a vault, it's a gateway. One of 7 built by our ancestors. If Theron claims the crystal, he'll be able to track the others. And if he unites the crown, he'll rewrite history itself. The words came to Raven's lips unbidden, drawn from the ancient knowledge now burning in her brain. Remove every trace of cooperation between our species. Leave humanity defenseless against what comes after. The snow cleared for a moment, revealing a structure ahead, a temple of black stone and gleaming metal, untouched by time. But movement caught Raven's eye, figures in stealth armor materializing from the storm, weapons raised. I guess subtle isn't in your cousin's vocabulary, Raven said, forcing herself to her feet despite the pounding in her head. Raven. Astria's voice held a note she hadn't heard before, fear, but not for herself. If we're captured, Theron will tear your mind apart trying to extract what the crystal showed you. Then I guess we better not get captured. Raven managed a smile, though her vision was still swimming. The sanctuary has weapons cached inside. If we can reach them. A blast of energy sizzled past them, turning a patch of snow to steam. Astria raised her hand, and a shield of pure light sprang up around them. Raven. Astria's eyes met hers, all three blazing with emotion. Whatever happens, know that I. Tell me later, Raven cut her off, grabbing her hand. Right now, run. The sanctuary's ancient halls echoed with weapons fire as Raven and Astria raced through corridors of black stone veined with pulsing light. The crystal's memories still burned in Raven's mind, showing her the way through the labyrinth as if she'd walked it 1,000 times before. The inner chamber, she gasped, leading them down a sweeping spiral staircase. There's a resonance amplifier there. We can use it too. An explosion rocked the sanctuary, sending fragments of crystalline architecture raining down around them. Through the dust emerged a tall figure in ornate armor that seemed to drink in the light itself. Cousin, the figure said, his voice smooth and cultured. You've led us on quite a chase. Lord Theron removed his helmet, revealing features similar to Astria's but harder, crueler. A cybernetic implant replaced his third eye, its red glow scanning them both. The human still lives, he noted with distaste. How disappointing. I'd hoped the quantum tunnel would spare me the trouble of eliminating her myself. Your confidence is touching, Raven said, fighting to stay upright as another wave of ancient memories threatened to overwhelm her. But I'm harder to kill than you'd think. Oh, I don't want you dead, Ms. Blackwood. Theron smiled, and it was like watching ice crack. Not until we've extracted every scrap of information the crystal buried in your primitive neural network. Astria stepped forward, placing herself between Raven and her cousin. You've forgotten everything our people stood for, Theron. The crown wasn't meant for conquest, it was created to preserve balance, to protect both our worlds. Balance? Theron spat the word. Look what balance has brought us. The Valeth Empire, once rulers of 1,000 stars, reduced to diplomatic niceties with barely evolved primates. More of his hunters appeared, surrounding them in a ring of charged weapons. Raven felt Astria tense beside her, ready to fight. But something in the crystal's memories caught her attention, a pattern in the sanctuary's walls, a resonance waiting to be awakened. You're wrong about humans, Astria was saying, her voice fierce with conviction. Their adaptability, their creativity, it's why our ancestors chose to work with them. Why they helped us build the crown in the first place. Ancestral fairy tales, Theron scoffed. Prove any of it. I can do better than that, Raven said quietly. She pressed her hand against the wall, letting the crystal's knowledge flow through her neural implant. Ancient circuits awakened beneath the stone. I can show you. The sanctuary's lights flared blindingly bright. Holographic images filled the air around them, scenes from the shared past of both species. Humans and Valeth working together to create wonders. The forging of the crown of harmony. The terrible wars that led to its separation. Impossible, Theron whispered, his cybernetic eye flickering as it tried to process the data flood. The sanctuary remembers, Raven said, though the effort of channeling so much power made each word a struggle. Your ancestors built it as a testament to what our peoples could achieve together. And as a warning, Astria added, her hand finding Raven's, their fingers intertwining. The crown was divided for a reason, Theron. Its power was too great for any one species to control. For a moment, doubt flickered across Theron's face. Then his expression hardened. Pretty illusions, he snarled. But they change nothing. The crown will be united, and the Valeth Empire will rise again. Starting with the elimination of this human infection. He raised his weapon, not at Astria, but at Raven. Time seemed to slow. Raven saw the energy blast leave the barrel, saw Astria moving to shield her. Without thinking, she pulled Astria close and spun them both away, letting her neural implant interface with the sanctuary systems one final time. The blast caught Raven in the shoulder, sending waves of agony through her body. But she kept her grip on both Astria and the crystal case, even as the sanctuary's floor began to crack beneath them. "Hold on to me," she gasped. "Always," Astria whispered. The floor gave way, but instead of falling to their deaths, they dropped into one of the sanctuary's ancient transport tubes. The last thing Raven saw before consciousness faded was Theron's face contorted with rage as they were pulled away by streams of quantum energy, heading deep into the heart of the mountain. In the darkness, Astria's voice reached her, "Stay with me, my love. This isn't over yet." And despite everything, the pain, the exhaustion, the weight of centuries of hidden history, Raven smiled. Because she knew, with absolute certainty, that Astria was right. Their story was far from over. Deep beneath the Himalayas, in a chamber older than human civilization, Raven awakened to the sound of singing crystals. Her injured shoulder had been bandaged with some kind of luminescent material that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. Astria sat beside her, her three eyes focused on the resonance crystal floating between her outstretched hands. "Welcome back," Astria said softly, lowering the crystal into its case. "You've been unconscious for 6 hours." "Theron?" "Still searching the upper levels with his hunters. The sanctuary's quantum architecture makes it impossible for them to track us down here." Astria's expression darkened. "But we can't hide forever. He's already called for reinforcements from the Empire." Raven sat up carefully, taking in their surroundings. The chamber was a perfect sphere, its walls covered in crystalline circuitry that hummed with barely contained power. At its center stood a structure she recognized from the ancient memories, a resonance amplifier, but far larger and more complex than she'd imagined. "This is it, isn't it?" she asked. "The real reason your mother hid the crystal on Earth. Not just to keep it from Theron, but because this was always its true home." Astria nodded. "The sanctuary isn't just a vault or a gateway. It's a nexus point, one of 7 built to maintain the quantum bonds between our peoples. When the crown was divided, this piece wasn't hidden on Earth by chance, it was returning to its source." Raven stood, drawn to the amplifier's complex geometries. Through her neural implant, she could feel the patterns of energy flowing through it, calling to something deep in her DNA. "The humans who helped build the crown," she said slowly, pieces falling into place. "They changed themselves, didn't they? Adapted their biology to work with Valeth technology." "Yes. And those changes were passed down through generations. Why do you think neural implants work so well for your people?" "The capacity was always there, waiting to be reawakened." Astria stepped closer, her warmth steadying Raven. "You're living proof of what our peoples can achieve together." A distant explosion shuddered through the sanctuary. Theron was getting closer. "If he unites the crown," Raven said, "he'll do more than just rewrite history. He'll erase these connections completely. Remove humanity's potential to ever work with Valeth technology. Which is why we can't let that happen." Astria's voice held steel beneath its melody. The amplifier can be used to boost the crystal's power, create a resonance field strong enough to stop him. But what? It would require both of us. A true joining of human and Veilith energy patterns. No one has attempted such a thing since the crown was forged. Astria's eyes met hers. The power could burn us both out completely. Another explosion, closer this time. Through her implant, Raven could sense Theron's forces converging on their location. They were out of time and options. Well, Raven managed a smile, at least the company's good. She stepped onto the amplifier's central platform, holding out her hand. Astria joined her without hesitation, their fingers intertwining. The crystal case opened at their combined touch, its contents rising to hover between them. "Whatever happens," Astria said softly, "know that meeting you was worth everything." "Save the goodbyes," Raven replied, even as tears threatened. "We've got a galaxy to save." They reached for the crystal together just as Theron's forces breached the chamber. Energy surged through the amplifier, through their joined hands, through the very fabric of spacetime itself. Raven felt her consciousness expanding, merging with Astria's in a dance of quantum fire. Their memories, hopes, and fears flowed together like stars colliding. In that eternal moment, they were everything and nothing, human and Veilith, past and future, separation and union. Through their joined minds, they touched the other pieces of the crown, scattered across the galaxy. Not to seize control as Theron intended, but to restore the balance their ancestors had fought to preserve. The sanctuary blazed with light visible from orbit. When it faded, Theron and his hunters lay unconscious, their weapons transformed into harmless crystal. The amplifier had burned itself out, but the resonance crystal glowed brighter than ever. Raven found herself on her knees, still holding Astria's hand. They were both crying, overwhelmed by what they'd experienced together. "It's done," Astria whispered. "The crown's pieces are sealed away. Not even Theron can track them now." "And us?" Raven asked, her voice rough with emotion. "What happens now?" Astria smiled, touching Raven's face with her free hand. "Now, my love, we build something new. Something neither of our peoples could create alone." "Together," Raven said, and kissed her. Above them, through the sanctuary's crystal dome, the first stars of evening began to shine. Not as distant lights, but as bridges between worlds. Between hearts. Between all the infinite possibilities that lay ahead. They had chosen each other, chosen hope over fear, unity over division. And in doing so, they had written a new chapter in the ancient story of their peoples, not an ending, but a beginning. The resonance crystal pulsed between them, singing of futures yet to come.